Okay, we should... Alright. I think we're probably live now. Probably. Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart, and this is the typical Sunday night discussion we do every Sunday night. Now, for back-to-back weeks, we're doing it just myself, I guess, just because, you know, no one's available right now. But we are going to be still talking, just like we did last week. It's going to be more of a Q&A in the sense that I will be talking to you guys in the chat, talking about my thoughts on some of the news of the week. And we're just going to be talking about Nintendo tonight. And that's the basic plan. So, you know, I'm going to let people roll in, give it a couple moments here, because looks like we are, you know, still waiting for people to roll in. So, kind of just waiting on that. But, yeah, we got stuff to discuss tonight. I guess might as well talk about the topics while I wait for you guys to roll in. So the basic plan for tonight, we're going to talk about Metroid Dread's record sales. We got NPD results, so we got the numbers for October, and it's looking pretty good for Metroid right now. And that's very promising stuff. It definitely suggests some really promising things for Metroid moving forward. We're going to be talking about that. And on that note, we got some fresh new rumors. We put out a video about it a couple days ago about Metroid Prime 1 Remake. Apparently the game is being remade, and apparently the game's development has been finished. It's done. It finished this summer. So yes, that is something else we will be discussing. It all sort of relates to Dread as well. It's all related. And on the note of that, we'll also discuss potential Game Awards nominations. We're mostly, not entirely, we're entirely going to be talking about just Nintendo stuff. So that's going to be discussing what kind of games could maybe be nominated that came out from Nintendo Switch. So we'll be discussing that. And then on a not related note, we'll be talking about the next 3D Mario. Miyamoto had some things to say on what they're doing with Mario, so I figured this would be a good opportunity to get into that, talk about it, maybe get into some expectations and hopes and speculation as to what we can sort of expect for the next big 3D Mario. So that's the general plan for the evening. Of course, this is a Q&A, so a lot of this is reliant upon you guys in the chat. So whatever you ask me, you know, we'll get into that, we'll discuss that. It doesn't even necessarily have to do with Nintendo. If you want to ask me something about life, I will probably answer it. I won't give you my credit card number, but I'll answer pretty much everything. So, okay, everything. You get my point, within reason. So, yes, that's the general plan for the evening, but let me see how some of you are doing in the chat tonight. DE Fox, hello there. Thank you for being here and being ready to mod. I appreciate that. Game walkthroughs, hello. iSonic, hello there. Logan LeBlanc, hi. Paco Salvador, hello. Rescue Squad Culp, good evening. Super Chris, yo, you love the jacket? Thanks, glad you like it. Charles Shadell, hello to you, sir. Super Chris, oh, Anandros, I'll be listening to the podcast. Okay, cool. Paul Dunn, playing Horizons 5 right now. This might beat out Dread for my game of the year. Close though. Okay, all right, that's a good game right there. Hello there, DK7. Game walkthroughs, thank you for letting me know that everything is looking and sounding okay. I forgot to ask, but thank you for telling me that, because occasionally things don't work out correctly. Actually, you know what? Thanks for bringing that up. Actually, I think the background music probably was a little lower, so I fixed that. Thanks for reminding me to just sort of check. So, cool. Very cool. Hopefully that's audible for you guys. Some Mario music in the background. Ronnie Fazio, hello. You just cleaned your oven today, Charles Hotel. Very good, very good. Nick D, hello there. All right. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to throw it out there. But I guess you know what? While I still wait for a few more people to roll in, what I'm going to do, right, I'm going to discuss some things that I did not say I was going to discuss. So, for example, we'll talk about Shin Megami Tensei V for a little bit. Now, I have not played it. I have not bought it yet. I want to, but I'm budgeting myself, so I'm going to have to wait a little while before I get into Shin Megami Tensei V. But I saw the reviews, and it seems like a really darn good game. It seems like a game that could potentially be nominated for something at the Game Awards. It's definitely a big deal. I did hear something about a data mine suggesting that it might not always be available on Switch. I mean, similar to Monster Hunter, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point it's also available on PC or something like that. I can maybe see something like that happening down the road. But either way, though, it's nice to see that the game is being received really well. It's something we've waited for a very long time, and I do plan on getting it. It's just kind of a matter of when, really. But yes, it looks awesome. Visually, it looks awesome. It seems like it's a really in-depth game, and it's definitely right up my alley. So, you know, if you are looking for a good RPG, from what I've heard and seen, it seems like a good idea. I haven't played it yet, but I definitely want to. So, yeah. For those who are wondering what I thought of Shin Megami Tensei V, I'm sure some people at some point are going to ask. There you go. Logan LeBlanc. Playing some Splatoon 2. Let's go. Yeah, playing Splatoon 2. Getting hype. Splatoon 3 is on the way, and I probably, you know, I've been thinking about firing up Splatoon 2 as well to just kind of like get back into it before we get Splatoon 3. Granted, we may have to wait like a little bit, but I mean, at some point next year we're getting it. I think probably by summer though. Charles, I didn't hear background before you said so. Now we hear. Good. Glad it's now audible. Lord Vader, hello. How are you? Oh, you got Sonic Colors as an early Christmas present. Good. Awesome, Chris. I hope it's not too glitchy, right? I think they patched it though, so that's good. Hopefully. Ronnie Fozzie, if you get Shin Megami Tensei V, I recommend getting it physically because those games tend to hike up in price as years pass. Okay. Noted. Yes, smash the like button. I would certainly appreciate that. That'd be really awesome. Share the stream, let others know, get it going, make the chat active. That really pushes things. I would really appreciate it, guys. But yeah, let's get into this discussion here. Now, I expect to see Breath of the Wild 2 at the Game Awards, but if it doesn't happen, that is 100% okay with me. I'm glad you brought that up. So, I think not too long ago, like this week, I put out a video talking about how I don't think the Breath of the Wild 2 will be delayed past 2022. I don't think so. That's a whole other discussion, right? But the basic reasoning is because I don't think Nintendo would have given us that release timing at E3, because they waited a long time. They waited a long time to give us any release timing. They announced the game in 2019, I guess, even though technically it was in development since 2017, and they waited until 2021 to give us a release timing. So I think they waited that long because they wanted to be sure of the release timing, unlike previous Zelda games where they tell us immediately and we are disappointed. And on top of that, with the recent quarterly results, they did sort of reaffirm that it's slated for 2022. So I think that bodes well to kind of sum up the video there, right? And with that in mind, Breath of the Wild 2 is likely going to be like the big holiday release next year, I think. And even if it comes out earlier, I think that actually supports the argument more so. There's a reasoning to start hyping up and discussing Breath of the Wild 2. And if you look at the history of the Game Awards, if it hasn't been Smash Brothers, guess what's been there instead? Breath of the Wild. It's shown up at multiple Game Awards shows. So, you know, just considering the history of things here, with Smash now done, there's no more DLC characters coming out. They don't have a DLC character they can announce at the Game Awards this time around. What do they do instead? Well, maybe they talk about Breath of the Wild 2, their big holiday release for the following year. I think that's a fairly good bet. I doubt Nintendo's not going to have a presence at the Game Awards. They've had a presence at the Game Awards the last 5 or 6 years or so, maybe even more. And they're going to want to have a presence there. It's a good marketing opportunity. It's a good time to start really drilling up the hype for Breath of the Wild 2. So I definitely think there's a really good chance. Obviously, they can maybe do something else. And so if it doesn't show up, I could also theoretically be okay with that. But that's contingent upon there being something else really cool they show off instead. So say, for example, they announced the Metroid Prime 1 remake. You know, that would be something really cool, and it could take the place of a Breath of the Wild 2 sort of announcement. That's totally fine. Totally fine. I see I got a super chat here from my friend Nate from Nintendo Prime. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it. What did you say? Does everyone know? Does everyone know what? Does everyone know what? Are you teasing something to me that I don't know? Are you? I don't know. But I'll tell you that I do feel confident that there's exciting things that are on the horizon. That is something I can say. But that's pretty generalized, right? Pretty generalized. Let's see here. Francisco Marquez. Plus Ultra, right? Plus Ultra. Yeah, exactly. I'm a My Hero fan, hence the hoodie. I have not seen the latest season though. I'm kind of waiting. I'm waiting for the right time to sort of just binge it. DE Fox. Despite its flaws, No More Heroes 3 is my favorite Switch game. I still like 1 and 2 more. You like... Wait. So, No More Heroes 3 is your favorite Switch game, but you still like 1 and 2 more. So what does that say about how you feel about Switch overall? Do you then... Does that by default mean that the Nintendo Wii is your... you prefer that over the Switch? Because if 1 and 2 you like more than 3, and if 3 is your favorite game on Switch, does that mean that, 1 and 2 you like more than Breath of the Wild, and Mario Odyssey, and Monster Hunter Rise, games like that? So, I mean, the Wii was a great console, a lot of great games. That's not a bad thing at all. Just interesting. Javi Sawyer 91 Munoz. Hello. You're waiting for your copy of SMT5 to arrive. Wednesday, okay. Logan, Andres, just saw Nintendo UK got some cool Arceus pre-order bonuses for the UK. Do you think we will get something equally as cool for the US? No. There's gonna be something. There's always there are times when we get something cool in the US and then the UK or Nintendo of Europe, they're like, oh, well, we got this, and it's something paltry by comparison. But then also, oftentimes it's in reverse as well. So it does sort of vary. I'm kind of curious now what that is. What is it? If I Google Arceus pre-order bonus UK, what will come up? This doesn't look like this is from September, so I doubt that I'm looking at the right thing here. Although that's a pretty looking case, and then you got the Pokeball too. I'm just gonna show this. I don't know if this is what you're alluding to. It probably isn't based off the timing, unless I'm just mistaken here. But I just think it looks cool. Let me show you. Of course, they updated things so it doesn't show up the way I like it to anymore. There we go. So, yeah. I mean, that's cool. If you get a pre-order bonus, you get the Pokeball. Man, you can put stuff in it. That's awesome. And then the case is beautiful. It's a beautiful looking case. Yeah, I really like how that looks. I don't know if this is what you're alluding to, but this is pretty darn cool. Yeah. Get back to chat here. Let's see. Logan. Also, Andres, did you hear that they said that this Game Awards will be the biggest ever? More game trailers, announcements. Well, they tend to almost do that every year. So, by all means, let's do it. Let's make it big. Let's make it hype. Let's make it exciting. I'll tell you, every time I watch the Game Awards, it's usually a bit of a snooze fest for me. Usually, there are the little highs, right? There are little highs when they announce certain games I'm excited about, but for the most part, it's a bit trying for me to stick through the whole thing. Yeah, there's definitely gonna be some good moments, and if you are a fan of games as a whole, like if you're a fan of PC games and Xbox games and PlayStation games and Nintendo games, then there's a little bit more for you, right? Because then it's not like, you're excited about everything that's kind of there, so it's more appealing to you. It just makes sense, right? Not to say that there aren't things that are non-Nintendo that I'm not excited about. For example, I am very excited for Elden Ring. That I am very excited about. That comes out this February, and I'm definitely picking that up. Probably day one. Probably. I just hope I have the time to play it, and I hope I'm not too caught up with Legends Arceus. We'll see. But yes, that's something I'm very excited for. And I don't know if it hasn't come out yet, but maybe they give us another trailer at the Game Awards. It's not out of the question. It's a lot, though. I think it will release in 2023 because the next gen for Nintendo hopefully will start in March 2023, and Nintendo has learned the hard way that it needs a big game to launch a system. So, yeah, okay, so if Nintendo is releasing the Nintendo Switch 2, let's call it that, the next generation system, March 2023, and Breath of the Wild 2 would have come out, say, November 2022, but they push it up 4 months for that. I understand what you're thinking, because that's basically exactly what Nintendo did for Breath of the Wild 1 and the Nintendo Switch. It was slated for 2016. The Switch was announced. Breath of the Wild was delayed. Came out 4 months later, day one on the Nintendo Switch, March 2017 instead. But also, Nintendo had initially wanted to get the Switch out by the holiday of 2016. They were unable to do that. So things needed to sort of be aligned. They needed to rework Breath of the Wild for the Switch, and they needed the Switch to have a strong launch title. So that's some of what we know in terms of why both things came out March 2017. If Nintendo could, they would have done it holiday 2016. And the reason I make this point is because I think too many people get hung up on the idea of Nintendo releasing hardware in March. Not saying it can't happen, but ideally, Nintendo comes out with hardware before March. It comes out with the holiday beforehand. They did March because that was the best they can do given the circumstances. Ideally, they go for holiday. Just what you do. Switch OLED came out October, Switch Lite September. Then if you go back before the Nintendo Switch, usually the Nintendo systems come out in the holidays. Gaming systems as a whole usually come out in the holidays. There are exceptions with revisions and such, but in general, they come out by the holidays. And I don't think that's going to change unless there's unforeseen circumstances. And maybe you could argue, well, there's a whole pandemic. That's thrown everything for a loop. Absolutely. It absolutely has. So, that's something to consider. But on the note of the pandemic, that has also led to the semiconductor shortages and chip shortages and supply issues. And because of that supply issue, it's hard to get hardware out right now. Which brings us to part of the information we'll be talking about today, which is Switch OLED. The news of that came alongside the Metroid Dread sales, and Switch OLED, I don't remember, I have the numbers up here, actually. Okay, so in the month of October, Nintendo Switch sold 711,000 overall in the US, but 314,000 of that was the brand new OLED model. So basically, almost half. It sold overall of Switches that were sold in October. But apparently it was down 3% from last October. And the reason is apparently, or the suggestion here by Nintendo executives, is that because of the chip shortage, they weren't able to produce as much, which makes sense because guess what? I've looked for a Switch OLED. Can't find them. They are sold out. It's not like sales are going down. It's just, they are, but it's in large part because there's a supply issue right now because of the chip shortages. So the reason I bring up this whole chip shortage thing is because, you need to be able to produce hardware, right? And Nintendo's already talked about how they want to push the Switch OLED all throughout next year. That's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to be focused on. So to then follow up by March 2023, which wouldn't even be 2 years after Switch OLED, with a next generation Switch, during this issue, while we're having supply shortage issues, by that point, you would hope that maybe Nintendo's already finally catching up with the supply shortages for Switch OLED to think that they then maybe go to Switch 2.0 at that point. I think that's a little bit too soon. I've been personally thinking holiday 2023. But when you consider what I'm talking about right now, maybe we should even open up ourselves to maybe consider that it comes out after holiday 2023, maybe 2024. As long as Switch sales are strong, Nintendo doesn't have to bring out the next piece of hardware. That said, I think also Nintendo is going to try to have a better transition this time around, and they're going to want to have things sort of blend in more smoothly. They don't want a situation like the Nintendo Wii where the last year there's basically no sales. They don't want to do that. They don't want to have a situation like the Wii U where the whole thing's dead, but even that last year was terrible. Like, you don't want to have a whole year where you don't have momentum. What you want is to sort of maintain momentum, and they kind of did it with 3DS, because the 3DS is where Nintendo was making their bread during the dreaded Wii U era, right? And the 3DS was still getting new games and was getting support 2 years into the Switch's life cycle. So I think what's going to happen, and this is my, I guess you could say my prediction, but I don't want to say it's a hard prediction, because as evidence presents itself, my opinion can change. But my take right now is I think that there's a good chance Switch 2 comes out holiday 2023. And if that's the case, that doesn't mean Switch is going to be phased out. It's maybe the base Switches will, but Switch OLED will still be relevant by that point. Switch Lite will still be relevant by that point. And these systems will be supported with even new games or cross-gen releases for another 2 years. In other words, Switch will have a life cycle between 2017 and 2025. That's a long life cycle. I think that makes sense. Which like you see, there's layers to this discussion, right? Going back to your take on Breath of the Wild coming out March 2023. I just don't think that, I mean, you could be right. I don't know, you know? So, but I just think that Nintendo's not going to push up Zelda then, because one, I don't think there's hardware then. I think if new hardware is ready, ideally they have it ready by holiday. So I just don't think that that's what's going to happen. Just based off history. Yes, based off the Switch, you might think otherwise, but we have to consider that Nintendo wanted it by holiday. So, I don't think so, but I do agree with your point that there needs to be a big game. That is 100% absolutely correct. And I actually think we might have multiple big games for Switch 2. If it ain't gonna be Breath of the Wild 2, what do you do instead? I don't know, maybe Mario Kart 9, maybe a 3D Mario, maybe Metroid Prime 4. Just a few options right there. And maybe all of them, or a couple of them, come out around that time. Heck, even a new generation of Pokemon could come out maybe around then as well. Or some sort of new version of Pokemon. So there's a lot of stuff that they could have come out around the holiday 2023 potentially. So, or maybe March 2024. Maybe they have to delay it into that time slot. So, we'll see. Comment writer, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Nishant, okay. I was gonna read your chat, but I missed it. All right, Nishant Kilkar, how good is your PC? I'm planning on getting one soon with the RTX 30 series GPU. So I'm not much of a big PC gamer. I don't even know what my PC is. It's not like terrible though. Not saying it's like amazing, but you know, I can play most modern games. I don't play them in 4K or anything. I don't have any 4K monitors right yet. I also don't really have a need for them. So yeah, but I mean, I would say my PC is what, mid-range, maybe. I can play modern games, usually. Tyrannus, hey Andres, did you get the Zelda Game & Watch? It's really nice. I have not gotten it. That is something to consider, though. Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be a nice collector's item. It wasn't really on my mind, but it would be. It is a nice little collectible, right? How does it feel? Is it comfortable? It's like ergonomic? DE Fox, I didn't play No More Heroes 1 and 2 on the Wii. I played the Switch ports, and I have a peculiar and niche taste in games and anime. I see. Okay, well, if you play them on Switch, they are arguably better on Switch, so there you go. But you just said, wait, hold on. But you said No More Heroes 3 is your favorite game on Switch, but you prefer 1 and 2, which are on Switch. So which is it? The Zesty Car. Hey Andre, Metroid Dread is now on the Wikipedia page of the as the best-selling Switch game. On the best Switch, one of the best-selling Switch games. It's listed as 1.1 with sources attached. 1.1 million. Okay, so far. Not a bad start, right? It's been out. I mean, if we just count the October numbers, it's not even a month. So, not a bad start. Not a bad start at all. We are going to get into that in a moment. I guess I could put a hold. I mean, I'm just trying to keep up with the chat here. Let's I guess we can let you know. All right, let's take this as an opportunity. I'm coming back to the chat, of course. Let's take this as an opportunity to talk about those Metroid Dread sales. So, I'll just go over the numbers. I already talked about the Switch numbers a little bit, so I guess I've already kind of dived into this topic. But Metroid Dread sold 854,000 units in the US. That is nearly 1 million in the United States, and that makes it the best-selling Metroid game in the US, the best start for a Metroid game in the US ever, which is very promising. So we want Metroid Dread to have some strong success. We want Metroid Dread, I'm gonna say we want it to sell at least 3 million. Why? Because that makes it the best-selling Metroid game yet, but also that's kind of the number that's in the range of, say, like Fire Emblem 3 Houses and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It will be a little bit above them. I think it's gonna sell better than both, but especially with Fire Emblem, because Fire Emblem has become a series that Nintendo brings out with some consistency now. And what's important about that is, one, Fire Emblem is awesome, so definitely that's that for that reason alone. Yes, it's great, but also at one point they were debating like putting Fire Emblem on the shelf for an indefinite amount of time. In other words, like Fire Emblem was gonna not finished, but they were gonna have no plans for a future Fire Emblem game, and it could have meant years. It might have meant they wouldn't even have had a new one by this point. And that was Fire Emblem Awakening, which I believe came out 2016. Am I mistaken? No, yeah, I'm definitely mistaken. I think I'm definitely wrong on that one. My brain is... I'm double checking. I'm wrong. Awakening came out way earlier than that. 2012. Jeez. Yeah, I'm confusing with something else. But anyway, the point is, back then, Fire Emblem Awakening came out, and it was a awakening for the series. And from that point on, we started getting Fire Emblem games every like 1 or 2 years or so. And it's been a fairly consistent series. So Metroid Dread's in a situation where it's looking like it's gonna hit that mark, like that 3 million mark, and that could be enough for Nintendo to consider it a valuable franchise to start bringing out more consistently. I have hopes that Metroid Dread goes beyond 3 million in sales, but the point is, if it hits 3 million, that's the same sort of territory as Fire Emblem, and I feel like that, is suggestive that Nintendo will want to continue to push it. So 3 million is definitely will be very successful. It would put it as one of the better selling Switch games, and if it hits 5, I mean, it could be in the top 20 for sure, best selling Switch games. So that would be very strong. I mean, with us being at 1 million already, and we don't have all the numbers for November, right? That's just for October, and then December, like all the holidays, like I bet that's gonna at least double, at least. So I wouldn't be surprised if Metroid Dread is over 3 million going into 2022. And if it exceeds 3 million by the time we hit January, man, that's special. That's great. And it could probably hit another 2 million over the course of the Switch's life cycle. I think that's definitely feasible. And at that point, a 5 million seller, that's huge. That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. That warrants a large budget, I would say. So, I think Nintendo will go for it, and that's just for the 2D Metroid game, right? And when I say just to be clear, I'm not trying to suggest that the game is lesser in quality because of it, but there is definitely a larger scope for the Prime games, or a perceived larger scope, and it does have, I would say, even greater sales potential, or at least more buzz potential. Kind of like Breath of the Wild versus Link's Awakening, right? Link's Awakening, awesome remake, awesome. But I think we all agree that, yeah, Breath of the Wild is, the thing with more sales potential, right? Now I would say the 2D Metroid series is better than the 2D Zelda series, right? So I feel like 2D Metroid definitely, deserves more credit to, you get my point. Like 2D Metroid's a big deal, but, yeah. I'm not going to tangent about the quality of 2D Metroid. It's amazing, right? Just to simplify that. But anyway, this is good. It's good news. It's good news that Metroid Dread has done this well. And with the rumors of the Metroid Prime remake, Nintendo can follow up that momentum with something big, and they can maintain strong Metroid sales and this will build up even more momentum going into Metroid Prime 4, which is bound to, I would say, outperform both Metroid Prime Remake and Metroid Dread. But we could be in a situation where, let's say Metroid Dread exceeds 5 million, say Metroid Prime maybe gets close to that as well, and then Metroid Prime 4, like, maybe that becomes like an 8-10 million seller, you know? It obviously depends. It totally depends. Metroid Dread may maintain as the best-selling Metroid game, right? To the point I was talking about earlier, like the 2D gameplay is really good. I think Metroid Dread has a chance to be nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards, maybe even win Game of the Year. It's a really, really good game, and it's very polished. I would maybe call it a masterpiece. Metroid Prime 4, it's not set in stone that's going to go down as a masterpiece. It's also not set in stone that's going to be received by the masses really well. I think it has the potential to. I think it has the potential to have even stronger sales than Dread or Metroid Prime Remake. But both these games are pivotal in sort of really building up momentum and a newer audience for the Metroid series, and that can lead to Prime 4 being a real banger, which will then just mean even more quality Metroid games moving forward. So this is exciting news, and it's good to see that a quality game is getting the credit it deserves, especially for Metroid. That years, you know, it's been so many years where we haven't gotten Metroid games consistently, and even when we got them, they didn't really get the attention that I think they deserved. But now it's looking like that they are, and you know, for the people who make Metroid, I'm sure that fills them with joy, because they did a great job, and it definitely is deserving of recognition. So yeah, that's my many pennies on the Metroid Dread sales situation, and we'll get more into the Prime Remake in a bit, but I kind of want to continue on with the chat here. Nishant, have you been playing The World Ends With You Final Mix on the Switch Online Game Trials? I have not, but it's available for free, right? Can you just, like, in theory, finish the game as long as you do it by the time the third trial is up? That's maybe something I should consider trying. Glad you brought that up. Game walkthroughs. Do you think we'll get a fresh new 2D Zelda sometime next year? Sometime next year? No. No, Breath of the Wild 2 is coming on next year, so the answer is no. But do I think a 2D Zelda is in the works? Yeah, for sure. I absolutely think that. Just a matter of time. Like, I could see Nintendo follow up Breath of the Wild 2. I don't know, maybe we have DLC and like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker come out after Breath of the Wild 2. Hard to say on when those come out, but I do think maybe within 2 years of the release of Breath of the Wild 2, we see a 2D Metroid. So if Breath of the Wild 2 comes out 2022, and let's say the Switch 2.0 comes out 2023, I could see like a DLC or like 4K Switch 2 version come out around then, or a patch, something like that, something to sort of, you know, something along those lines. But then in 2024, maybe then we see 2D Metroid. Yeah, I mean, not 2D Metroid. Well, it'd be great to see a 2D Metroid that year as well, but I really mean 2D Zelda. Yeah. So I think we're ways off from another 2D Zelda because of Breath of the Wild 2. I think they're spacing them out, but it's coming. Yeah, less than a month away until Halo Infinite, Logan. Good point. And Halo Infinite, I like Halo, so it's definitely something that I'm somewhat interested in, right? And I could play that on my PC. So, you know, definitely something I'm keeping my eyes on. Rupert Video James. Hi. How you doing? Ronnie Fazio. Hey man, just curious, when you start a game, do you only play that one game until you finish it, or do you bounce between them? I bounce between my Switch and PS4 a little bit. It definitely it ranges for me. Sometimes games fail to sort of maintain my attention, and then I go away from them. Sometimes I get stuck, sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes I do kind of want a little bit of a change of pace, and I do play different things. Like, it depends what kind of game it is, right? So for example, playing Smash Brothers, playing Mario Party, playing Tetris, those are things I can kind of just jump in, do a few rounds. That's fun. But there's no narrative to it necessarily, right? But say, for example, playing something like No More Heroes 3 or Metroid Dread, where it's kind of like a single player experience, that I tend to do you know, I'm not gonna like I probably wouldn't play No More Heroes 3 and Metroid Dread interchangeably usually, but I will play, for example, in when I take a break from. Well, right now I'm playing through Ocarina of Time on N64 Online, right? So, and what I'll do when I don't feel like playing that, I might be like, oh, I'll play Tetris now, right? Or I'll play Smash for a little bit. Like, I might mix those up, or Mario Kart or something. But until I finish Ocarina of Time, I may not try out another game. Granted, Ocarina of Time is not going to take me that long. So, but the other thing to consider is that because Ocarina of Time is like a game that already exists and I've played it a dozen times already, I feel like with that game, the idea of me trying different things is more likely. It has more to do with like new single player experiences. For example, when Pokemon Legends comes out this January, I'm probably going to want to finish that before I start Elden Ring. Now, depending on my excitement level for Elden Ring, because I'm definitely getting Legends Arceus, no doubt about that. And I will start it before Elden Ring comes out. But if I haven't finished Legends Arceus yet by the time Elden Ring releases, and if I'm really excited for it, I may buy it day one, and I may start Elden Ring just to kind of see it a little bit before I finish Legends Arceus. Like, it does depend sometimes, but I would say most likely I'm going to make sure I finish Legends Arceus before Elden Ring comes out, and I won't start Elden Ring until afterwards. So there's that. Also, it should be noted, because I am a YouTuber, I talk about Nintendo things, there'll be more pressure on me to finish Legends Arceus before I play Elden Ring, because with Elden Ring, there's no... I'd be playing that for my own personal recreational reason. Like, I'm not going to cover it on the channel at all. So, you know, I could take my time with that. With Legends Arceus, I'll still try and take my time, but there's a little bit more pressure for me to kind of play through it because of the channel, right? So I would say single player games, they don't have crossover usually. There are occasional exceptions. And then if it's multiplayer games, that's fair game. I can jump between them and a single player game all the time. So, yeah. Narrative games versus party arcadey games, I guess. So, yeah, many things are not normal, Charles Shagel. Game walkthroughs. Do you think that Nintendo will do a sequel to Odyssey, or will they take a completely different direction? I think it's not going to be considered a direct Mario Odyssey sequel, in the sense that it's not going to be like Super Mario Odyssey 2. And I'd love to be wrong on that, but I mean, the game came out 2017. It's 2021. They haven't said anything yet. So I think the boat has sailed on a Mario Odyssey 2 sequel in name. But I do think a lot of the mechanics for Mario Odyssey will sort of that they will progress with those mechanics and evolve that, which I guess is now a good time to go into the topic, right? So let's talk about the next 3D Mario. Your question brings me to it. So, and we'll come back to the Metroid stuff, don't worry. But let's see here. I had something popped up. Let's see here. Where is it? I had it. There we go. Okay. All right. So, you know, there was an interview. Miyamoto said some things, and I don't have to read the whole thing here, but basically, this is one line. Recently, people of all generations have been enjoying the 3D Mario game Super Mario Odyssey. So for 3D Mario going forward, we want to try expanding further in new ways. It's nothing mind-blowing, revelatory. It doesn't really tell us too much. But it is a nice starting point, I think, for this conversation. So they're going to expand. They're going to come up with new ideas. They're going to try and do some new things. I think Nintendo gets that the open sandbox style probably is something that's gonna perform really well. Granted, if you look at 3D All-Stars, that's suggestive that any 3D Mario is gonna perform really well. But I do think I just have the sense that we're gonna continue in that direction. I mean, you look at Bowser's Fury. That's an open style Mario game as well. They threw that into one of the more linear style Mario games, 3D World. So, and I think with that in mind, it does show that there was a thought process in terms of experimenting with different styles of Mario, and just sort of having them both to sort of compare. I think it's suggestive of things. I mean, 3D World plus Bowser's Fury has sold really well, I think in large part because of Bowser's Fury. So I do feel like we are still moving in the direction of open style Mario, but I think there is potentially a middle ground here because Odyssey does have a lot of Galaxy-like elements. I do think that they are going to try to find a slightly better balance of that, because the side areas that you go into and you kind of have like a goal and you have to, just sort of go straight to that goal. Those are fun. Those are really fun, and I do want more of that, but I will love it when it's interwoven into the world. So I do think we're going to see more of that moving forward. I think they're going to try to come up with a better balance there. I mean, Bowser's Fury is really interesting because it's an open style environment with lots of little challenges littered throughout, and that was really interesting. So I think that is suggestive that they're just thinking of different ways to sort of position these different challenges and obstacles and platforming events all throughout an open environment. I would love to see more of that. I would love to see them expand upon that. So I think there's definitely a lot of potential there. I see them progressing in that way. Now, when do we see the next 3D Mario? That's tough because I'm not 100% certain who exactly is developing this Mario game or the rumored Donkey Kong game either. Because initially, the rumor for the Donkey Kong situation was that it was the Mario team, the Mario Odyssey team. And now there's just been more specification or lack of specification that it's an EPD group. There are multiple EPD groups, and they could be working on a Mario game and a Donkey Kong game at the same time. But I guess the implication would be that if it is mostly the Odyssey team that is working on the next Donkey Kong game, then that implies that they don't have all hands on deck for the next 3D Mario, unless Nintendo's using a different team, but I don't think they will. But it could be a situation where some of the Mario Odyssey team is working on Donkey Kong, and they're still they're still working on the Mario game, but it's something that is a little bit on the back burner, right? That's kind of what I've chosen to maybe believe, but we don't know for sure, so we'll see. But I don't think we're getting a 3D Mario too soon from now. They're working on it, and I'm not saying it's basically I don't think it's coming out next year, but can we see an announcement in 2023 potentially? I'd say we get the next 3D Mario by 2024 holiday at the latest. That's my thinking on it, and the reason why I think that is because typically we see a big 3D Mario come out pretty early into every new system's life cycle. And if I'm thinking that Switch 2 comes out holiday 2023, then I am predicting, or maybe I have somewhat of an expectation that the next 3D Mario will come out within a year of that point, so holiday 2024. And conceivably, if let's say the Switch 2 doesn't come out to holiday 2024, they could, in theory, release the 3D Mario as the launch title. I think we wait that long, that is maybe the implication that 3D Mario would take that slot. I can see that. What I'm kind of thinking though is that 2023 we see Metroid Prime 4 and a new Mario Kart come out to sort of push new hardware, and then 2024, did I say 2023 Prime 4, Mario Kart for the holidays, and then 2024 is like 3D Mario, I think, and then I don't know. That's ways off, so I'm sure there'll be other things. But yes, I think maybe we have a few years before the next big 3D Mario, but they are working on it. Now, some people bring up, well, they would want the Mario game to come out alongside a Mario movie. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's a sign that the Mario game is not that far off. But consider this: the Mario movie is coming out late next year, right? Holidays next year. When Nintendo puts out a mobile game, that mobile game will, have some success, and then the traditional hardcore or just console version of that game, the next installment of that series, usually comes out afterwards. And the mobile audience, the idea is that it tends to boost the sales of that console version that comes out a little bit later. And it's not divided by a few months. Sometimes it's divided by a year or two. So if the Mario movie comes out holiday 2022, right? And that's just the cinematic release. They may come out on, you know, digitally afterwards. Like that hype train will be spread out, and that's going to build up a more of an audience for Mario, and then maybe we see the Mario game by 2024. You know, and you could argue maybe a Mario Kart would also see a boost in sales because of the Mario movie, right? And maybe the Mario Kart would come out 2023. Either way, something Mario will probably come out. There's something Mario comes out every year, which is another thing to consider. So the Mario movie, regardless, is going to boost sales for something Mario. Like that's going to happen. Like creating that awareness is going to happen. The Nintendo Park itself is going to bring more of an awareness to the Mario series, Nintendo as a whole. So I don't think specifically with Mario the timing matters as much, because it's kind of Mario's like always sort of a constant thing. But you know, the Donkey Kong movie though, that might be a little different. So we'll see on that. And I would actually argue that for Donkey Kong, because it's lesser known, you want the Donkey Kong game to come first and then the movie come out afterwards, to sort of establish itself a little bit more. Because yeah, you want the game at the core of it all is the main point here. Like how are you gonna get people to go watch a Donkey Kong movie if there's not that many fans of Donkey Kong itself? You know, that's why they're gonna have Donkey Kong in the Mario movie. They're gonna have a Donkey Kong expansion, but I think the core of it all is a big Donkey Kong game that Nintendo's gonna be pushing, and I think there's a good chance that a lot of the Mario team is working on this Donkey Kong game, which goes back to my consideration in terms of when we see the next 3D Mario. I think we have to wait a little bit, but they're for sure working on it already. Like, you know, we're not that far off. But yes, we'll see what happens there. But let me check with the chat. Just go start run type DXDAG, and you can get all your CPU, RAM, GPU info. I guess I could. Alright, fine. No, I don't care. Ubicore, playing SMT5 and listening to the stream. This game is tied with Metroid Dread for my game of the year. Okay. Really, that's very, very promising. Actually, you know what? I'll go ahead and check my PC specs. They're not really that good. They're just, I know I can play some modern games on it. It's not. I use it to edit. Let's see. What do I do? Start. I'll do it. I'll check it later. Tyrannus. Andres, believe it or not, it's got a really great screen and the gameplay as well. As far as it being comfortable, it's a game and watch, but I'd say yeah. Okay, you're talking about the collector's the Zelda Game & Watch. Yeah, okay, good to hear that. It's good stuff. Awesome. Zolado, yeah, I see what you say. The problem is that I don't see a game that propels the next-gen systems like Breath of the Wild 2. I don't think Metroid Prime 4 or even a 3D Mario have the same system selling power. Zolado, ... maybe Mario Kart 9, ... Yes, I don't know if you heard me make that point, but that's... So I think Metroid Prime 4, Mario Kart 9 potentially could be like a 1-2 punch for Switch 2 in 2023. Now, I think those both would be still available for base Switch, but there could be better versions Switch 2, right? And like better running, better looking versions. I absolutely think that, for example, just think of it like this. Nintendo put out Metroid Dread to push Switch OLED, right? Shows Nintendo is willing to use something besides Zelda to push hardware. They use Metroid this time around. Then Metroid is looking to have some pretty strong sales. So if Prime 1 Remake also does really well, if it's building that momentum, I think Nintendo is going to feel like, oh wait, you know, maybe we can use Prime 4 to push a Switch 2. And especially if we're in a situation where there's going to be a lot of cross-gen releases, a lot of crossover. So if you still have a Switch, don't worry. All these games are still going to work on your base Switch or your Switch OLED or your Switch Lite. But this new Switch is going to run and make them look better, right? So part of the selling point of Switch OLED is the games look really nice in handheld mode, including especially a game like Metroid Dread. So you put out Metroid Prime 4, and it's 4K. 60, well, I'm assuming it'll be 60 FPS regardless, but say it's 4K on Switch 2. And it really just looks and runs amazing on Switch 2. That's going to compel a lot of people to want to make the switch so they can see Prime 4 in its full glory. And then, you know, maybe I also think Mario Kart 9 has significant selling power as well. I don't know exactly what the timing will be, but I see Prime 4 Mario Kart 9 coming out around then. I just see Mario Kart 9 coming out before the next 3D Mario, just because of how long we've waited since the initial Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8 came out 2014 on the Wii U, so you know, Deluxe came out 2017, but yeah, it's about time we get a new Mario Kart. So I do think both of those will be, obviously Mario Kart, because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is like the best selling game on Switch. Like, following a Mario Kart 9 will be very much well wanted. There's been such a long drought of new Mario Kart content. People will be rabid for that. So yeah, I think the Prime for Mario Kart 9 1-2 Punch will be an incredible holiday. An incredible holiday. And if it's a Switch 2, as well as I'm speculating, dude, Nintendo's gonna have so much momentum. They're gonna they'll be fine. Like, if there's a concern about like Switch 2 not keeping up that Switch momentum, no, those two, they will make it flow beautifully. I think so. General Banana, Metroid Dread sold probably over 1.5 to 2.5 million worldwide right now. Well, there was a wiki article that said 1.1, but I mean, that I do think you're probably about right. I do think Metroid Dread's probably sold in that range already, and that's very promising for the future of Metroid. Very, very promising. Super Chris, I'm thinking about getting Paper Mario the Origami King. You should. It's a really good game. I really like it. It's great. It's a really good adventure game. With some very light RPG elements, which may set some people off. But you know, if you don't hold yourself to the thinking that a Paper Mario game has to be an RPG specifically, I think you'll really like Paper Mario the Origami King, because it's just a really fun adventure game. It really is, with light RPG elements, and it's cool puzzly stuff. Like, it's fun. Ooh, I got a chat bump again, so I lost my spot in chat. Let's see here. Natsu, Elden Ring is amazing. It's a lot of fun. It's about as difficult as Dark Souls 3 in my opinion. Really? Okay, I've heard Dark Souls 3 is a little bit easier than some of the other Souls games. I haven't played them all. I played Dark Souls and I played Bloodborne. That's it. But I really like those games and I want to play more. So I'm definitely interested in Elden Ring. I should probably play Sekiro, but yeah, no. I'm interested. Let's see. Game walkthroughs. What do you think is going on with Pikmin 4? I think it's actually... Ooh, that's a... Wow. I actually think that Pikmin 4 is not far off. I know that I thought maybe it could come out 2021. But, you know, COVID. That's my excuse. But I wouldn't shock me if Pikmin 4 comes out next year. Wouldn't shock me. Now, some of you might say, oh, why would you say Pikmin? Like, the year's already chock full of games. Yes, but Pikmin's on the smaller side of things, I would say. So I could see that happening. If not next year, the year after. Like, that's the range. Because, think of it like this. Pikmin 3 Deluxe came out last year in 2020, and it's actually had fairly promising sales. It sold a few million, I think. And then, now we're getting... the Pikmin mobile game has come out, and I just saw that it's already had over 2 million downloads. So that's gonna probably do some damage, like good damage, like it's gonna sell. It's gonna, you know, generate some popularity for Pikmin. And that awareness for Pikmin and the momentum for Pikmin 3 Deluxe, I think, will position Pikmin 4 to perform relatively well. I think if it is a 2022-2023 release, it's gonna be something pretty good. I could see maybe 2023 or maybe an early 2023 release. Maybe that happens. But I think we're within 2 years is my main point here, because I think they want to follow the momentum established by both Pikmin 3 Deluxe and this mobile game. Pikmin 4 is supposed to be in development for years and years. They probably restarted development and have rebuilt it again. But it's been so long, I think they've been able to do that. So yeah, I do think Pikmin 4 is not far off. I would love to say it's coming out next year, but it is. I think, you know, yeah, there are a lot of games already slated for next year, so we're running out of spots. When you factor in the Donkey Kong rumor, when you factor in the Xenoblade 3 rumor, both of which I believe to be true, by the way. So assuming they are true, and then there's also Fire Emblem, like all these games are supposedly like nearly complete, if not done already. Like, and then there's a Metroid Prime remake as well. Like, there's a lot of unannounced games that are supposedly done or near complete. Something's got to give. I don't think all of those come out next year. You know, Nintendo saves some of them. They push it up for the year after. So, you know, we'll see. But definitely, yeah, it's not far off. I don't think so. D Fox 1 and 2 are okay. This is about the number here thing, right? Yeah. All right. Charles, I'll just restart. In Windows search, the white search bar besides the start button, tap run. It's a software. In the next text box of the software, just tap DXDIG. It will give you all details. Fine. I'll finally do it. All right. So if I put run. Okay, I see. A text box appeared, and I put DI. Watch my computer crash. I know that's not gonna happen. DX diag. I get it. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. So it's checking stuff right now. Operating system Windows 10. What does it say about my graphics? I don't know. It doesn't. I don't see. It says my processor is an i5 8400 CPU at 2.8 gigahertz, 6 CPUs, RAM 8 gigs. Yeah, I don't see the graphics card on here though. Anyway, I'm not gonna worry about that for now. Moving on. Let's see here. Okay. Logan LeBlanc just bragged about Splatoon 3 coming next year on Instagram, and someone yelled at me for supporting Nintendo, the most anti-consumer company apparently. Yeah, well, you got your fair share of Nintendo haters. You can tell them to suck it. They're just being, if they're giving you crap about that, then they just, if they're giving you trouble for being excited for a Nintendo game, you can tell them, well, you honestly should just ignore them because they're dumb. It's just that simple. They're dumb. Like, not saying that Nintendo is perfect. There are issues, but it's fine. Like, Nintendo's more careful about doing shady things than other companies. Yes, they have tactics that make them money. I'm not saying they don't. They do have high prices for things, but the reason they have high prices for things is because people still buy them. It's a law of supply and demand. So, you know, Nintendo does a lot of things to sort of maintain their value. On the flip side, you know, that's saying they also are under a microscope. So whenever they have something that is not done well, people notice. For example, N64 Online. It is a mess. Their criticism is deserved, but I don't think that means, you know, that I don't think people are in the right for saying you shouldn't enjoy Nintendo games then. Like, that's obviously dumb. Nintendo's the most successful company in gaming right now, pretty much, at least for console games. So, yeah, you know, obviously people like it. So, yeah, don't worry about it. Actually, on that note, though, there was a article I saw that apparently Doug Bowser said, "We take the feedback very seriously in relation to the complaints about emulation on N64 Online." And then it was a basically very, like, I'll just read the whole quote here. "We are constantly looking for ways to make our online features and those games better and continue to add value through more services and more games as we go forward. We take the feedback very seriously, and we are continuing to look at ways to improve the overall performance. For us, it's about quality and great content at a great value. So, yes, this may sound like a very PR speak non-answer answer, but there are some key words here that I think are important to note. He does say, and we are continuing to look at ways to improve the overall performance. You can chalk up a lot of the performance of the emulation. Like, you could argue that that's a big issue here. So it is something that they're looking at. He says that they take the feedback very seriously. And you know, I actually think this is a better answer than maybe some people are going to give it credit for. He can't just straight up say, hey, unless Nintendo makes like a statement, puts out a statement, I don't think he can make a statement specifically related to that. If he did, it might be a little bit out of what he should have do normally. But the fact that he says that they take feedback very seriously and they're continuing to look at ways to improve the overall performance, like that one blurb right there is actually promising, I would say. So, you know, keep the conversation going, you know. I think the more of an awareness that's created about this, Nintendo's more likely to improve upon it. And I think they are listening. I have some optimism that we are going to see some improvements, maybe. Okay. I don't know how optimistic I should be, because Nintendo have had a history of like being, oh, this is it, we did it, but also they do fix some things. Like if something's like broken, like for example, like Metroid Dread, there was a game-ending glitch. They fixed it, right? Like, so there are things that they will go back and fix and change. I hope they adjust this emulator. Fingers crossed, right? So keep the conversation going. I don't think this statement is bad news. If anything, it's good news, but it's not. It might be good news. We don't know for sure, but I don't think it's bad news. Charles Riddell. Right now, Nintendo makes its most money with games without microtransactions, meaning they are encouraged to continue making games, not making micro-infested games. Yeah, so, you know, that's one thing to consider, right? Like, that is... Nintendo doesn't do that, really, compared to other companies. Like, they've been putting out, like, quality, traditional games, and we're enjoying them, and they're performing really, really well. Like, Nintendo's been rewarded for sort of not kind of going in that direction like EA, right? So, you know, that's promising. Now, I'm not saying they haven't done some things that have dabbled in it, right? They have done some mobile games and things like that. But their core franchises remain uncorrupted, I'd say. And yeah, man, I feel like Nintendo has been out putting some really good games. Metroid Dread, Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart Deluxe, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Splatoon 2. Like, all these games are considered some of the best in their respective series. Fire Emblem Three Houses, like, even if it's not the best, it's like one of them, right? Like, it's Nintendo has been delivering the goods when it comes to the games on the Switch. So, yeah, that part I think is certainly worth commending. Ronnie Fozzie, I'm looking forward to Donkey Kong. Yeah, right. I'm losing. I don't want to say I'm losing hope that it's real. I do believe it's real. I absolutely believe it's real. I'm not sure on the timing of it, because going back to what I was talking about earlier, just like with all the things coming out next year, I'm starting to wonder, where do they position that, right? But we'll see. We'll see. So, how far are we into this? We've gone... Alright, we're a little over an hour. So, what's next? Alright, we've discussed Mario. We've discussed Metroid Dread sales. There's a couple more things we need to discuss. Alright, so, let's talk about the Metroid Prime 1 remake. So, Metroid Prime 1 is going to be remade. Is that official information? No, it is not. But it is coming from a lot of journalists who have good, strong track records. But we've been talking about this since September already. There are a lot of journalists that have come out and said it, but more recently, Emily Rogers came out and said a few more things. I already put out a video about this, but I'll go ahead and read you what she said recently. So here, and I could even... Yeah, I'll just read it. Work on Metroid Prime Remaster... I keep like just blurbing out the word, but not saying it correctly. Work on Metroid Prime 1 Remaster started around 2017 to 18. Original plan was to develop and release Prime 1 first, then use Prime 1's foundation, engine, tools, assets to recreate Prime 2 and 3 later. Nobody knows if plans were changed axed after COVID. She then goes on, it would be cool if Nintendo sticks to their original plan and brings all 3 Metroid Prime games to Switch. I'm rooting for the best possible scenario here. Only thing I can confirm at the moment is Prime 1 exists, and it just wrapped up development over the summer. So there's actually quite a few things to extrapolate from this, I would say. So the obvious one is the game's done. They finished it this summer. And when she says that they started development around 2017 to 18, that means this game's been in development for a few years. At minimum, 2. At minimum. More than that. Like, if they finished now, and they started, let's say they started late 2018, which I don't think based on what they're saying, but let's say late 2018, they started. I mean, it's been in development for, you know, at this point, 3 years. And if it comes out next year, like, you know, that's a lot of time for an old game. So remastering, and she's talking about reusing engines and assets and things for Prime 2 and 3. The implication here is that they're creating a whole bunch of new assets and tools and engines in place for Prime 1. So they're basically rebuilding the game. It's a remake, right? Now there may be some things that aren't entirely changed, so it may still qualify as a remaster, but it's looking like it's getting substantial changes here. So that's very exciting. This game may look really, really impressive. Now, something else to note, and I mentioned this later into my video, but what's interesting is that she says the timing was between 2017 and 18. So that's when they supposedly started. But what's interesting is that when the development restart occurred for Prime 4, which would be January 2019, that's when they announced it. So the implication being they probably started a little bit before that restart Prime 4. That those dates aren't too far off. But we had gotten information from Imran Khan, and Imran Khan was saying that apparently development wasn't going well for Prime 4. And then Retro Studios showed some sort of demo to Nintendo that impressed them really much, and then they switched over Prime 4 development to Retro Studios. So the suggestion here is that Retro Studios has been working on this remake. And if that's, I don't think Emily Rogers has said that recently, but there were others who suggested that it was Retro Studios in the past. So, but the suggestion here is that what Retro Studios is working on, that demo that we haven't known about for all these years, we wonder what is that demo? What was the thing that Retro Studios showed Nintendo that convinced them to switch over? It could have been an early version of the Metroid Prime 1 remake. And they were so impressed by it, they're like, oh wow, this is what you're doing with the remake for Prime 1? Well, we see what you can do for Prime 4. So that's exciting stuff. And it means that maybe what they showed Nintendo is more than just a proof of concept. Maybe, right? This is I am making connections here, and we don't know for sure. But that's exciting to think about. And it means that I think it speaks very well for what this remake could be. Maybe it has some new content in there. At the very least, it sounds like it's going to be a real visual banger. It's going to look really good. The controls will probably optimize somewhat. Maybe Samus will flow a little better. Maybe they'll give her a melee attack. Maybe they'll work on the AI for some of the enemies a bit more. There's some really cool things it can do with that. But this also is suggestive of promising things for Prime 4, I would say. Because if they already have a promising build for Prime 1, going back to late 2018, early 2019, then, you know, they have sort of an engine in place already they can build off of too for Prime 4. Which, you know, it suggests that they still have somewhat of a foundation there, which could help development for sure. And that I think that is promising. Now, you know, the other implication is that if Retro Studios is working the Prime 1 remake, then they do have their hands somewhat tied. So, you know, then are they have to work on Prime 4 as well. Now, of course, a studio can work on more than one thing at once, right? And we have seen a lot of expansion to the studio, so maybe they've been working on them side by side, right? And at the end of the day, if it is a remake, you know, there's not that much work that needs to be done. Like, if development for this goes back to 2017 and they just finished now in 2021, we're talking about 3 to 4 years of a development cycle here, right? So that's a long time for a remaster. So, you know, maybe they didn't have as big of a team working on it then. The suggestion being that they definitely had enough talent to, or a sizable amount of talent to start working on Prime 4. And maybe there was, like, you know, crossover between both projects, which would make sense. They're both Prime games. So I think that's a possibility. I think it's very exciting. I think there's a possibility we maybe even see it at the Game Awards. I'm not saying we see it then, but there's a possibility. Now, I will bring up this thing that was said by Samus Hunter, another person who has provided information about things that have been right before. And this is what Samus Hunter said in response to Emily Rogers. She retweeted her tweet. Samus Hunter says, "Hopefully Dread won't be the only Metroid game at the show, the Game Awards, but we might have to wait a little bit more so the two titles don't compete on a marketing public reception level." And I think that's a really good point to be made. She responded to someone else and saying, "Really hope they gave Metroid Prime a proper remake." Samus Hunter says, "It is. The project initially started as a test for Prime 4 engine and control scheme and later founded by Nintendo for a full game. This also helped newer members of staff to understand the design behind the series." So what she's saying here goes slightly against what I'm suggesting, but it does imply Retro Studios is working on it, and that would sort of connect with what Imran Khan said. So, you know, maybe what happened was, because we don't know when they restarted development for Prime 4. We just know when they told us, right? They told us in January of 2019, but they may have been months before. And so maybe this pushes us to 2018, like what Emily Rogers said. Maybe Retro Studios heard of the issues that were going on with whatchamacallit, with Prime 4 development with Bandai Namco, supposedly, and they put together a demo, then showed Nintendo, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we like what you're doing with this. Here's Prime 4, but also, can you finish Prime 1 as well, right? Turn this to a full game." So maybe that's what happened, and then all of a sudden, everyone's right. Samus Hunter's right, Emily Rogers is right, Imran Khan's right, and all of them are relatively good track records, I would say. So, relatively good. No one's perfect. They've all had some things off, but pretty much pretty good. Yeah, I think that makes sense. But let me see what you guys in the chat think. Game walkthroughs, not Nintendo really, but have you played Astro's Playroom on PlayStation VR? A little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of neat. I did find it interesting. Ronnie Fozzie, it's too bad Super Mario Run didn't do well. Nintendo wouldn't have to go so deep into microtransactions in the mobile game, but that's the nature of the mobile beast. It is. Yeah, they didn't want to do that, right? But it didn't work out for them. Zalado, I hate that some people say remake and some people say remaster. It's two different things. A remake is made from the ground up, and remastered is sometimes better lighting, textures, and resolutions. So yes, I in general would agree with that, but unfortunately, there is a bit of a blurred line situation. It's almost like a spectrum, I would say. So I would define a port as a game that's ported over. But once you start doing things to enhance the experience, then you're remastering it, right? So if that means upscaling the textures, if that means, cleaning up the audio, improving things, right? Working on the visuals, that's great. But as you remaster it, you sometimes may redo some assets potentially, redo a few little things, but the core of the game is still mostly the same build, just sort of, enhanced or polished up a bit, right? But as you put in more assets and rebuild certain things, then there's a bit of a, oh, this is starting to look like a remake, right? Like, look at Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. They added new character models, they put in HD textures, they added a whole epilogue version, they had a lot of quality of life updates, but there still are artifacts from the previous build of the game. So they didn't build it up entirely from the ground up. But here's the other thing to consider here. There are borrowed assets and elements from game to game for all sorts of different series and engines in development. So the idea that a developer starts entirely from scratch with nothing at all is just really, really rare. Really, really rare, because everything has something borrowed from something else at this point. Like, you do reuse assets, but of course things are changed around and used differently, so it's still effectively new, but there's always a repurposing of previous content and assets and things of that nature. So when you talk about remake, oh well, then if you see a remake as something built entirely from scratch with nothing at all at the base, then almost nothing is remade. But I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair, right? So that's where, like, all of a sudden the definition starts to get a little bit blurred, because there's always some repurposing of content, but at what point do you call it a remaster? At what point do you call it a remake? And a lot of people have just used the terms interchangeably through colloquialism, because that's how our language works. That's just the way it is, I guess, right? And then there's reimagining, which reimagining to me is, it's a different game. It's a different game, it's inspired by the initial one, like Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's a different game, different gameplay, different world, just based off the initial world, different story to some extent, it's told slightly differently. Like, that's a reimagining. So I'm very curious to see what they will do for Prime 1. Very curious. Like, I don't know if they call it remaster, remake, but I'm just excited to see what it is, because it's going to be a significantly improved Metroid Prime 1. And that's going to be great. Visually, it's probably going to look pretty modernized. Charles Trudell, guy you don't know. You're referring to someone else. Okay, then I'll. Well, what did guy you don't know said? What did you say? Guy you don't know. The day that we see microtransactions in a new Mario or Zelda game is the day the apocalypse happens. Yeah, he could be right. Then Charles Trudell responds, "It's the end where this industry should be burned to the ground. It's the day where no company can hope to compete without using the nasty tool that is micro. If we see microtransactions in a mainline Zelda or mainline Mario, yeah." It would be a dark day, right? Well, I mean, you never know. Maybe it could be handled in the correct way, but yeah. Hello there, Birdman Senpai. How you doing? Nintendo Love Girl. Hello. Yeah. So, remakes, remasters, reimaginings. I think, well, I don't like how loose the terminologies have become. I think what we can say, assuming what we're being told is true from the rumors, this Metroid Prime 1 Remake Master Imagining is something that is going to be a significant improvement over the initial one. It's going to look really good, and it's going to be more than just an HD upscale. Like, it's going to be far more ambitious than Skyward Sword HD. Let's say that. I think that's clear. What's going down here. And I'm kind of hoping for some extra content. Kind of hoping for that. Now, when do we see this? There's some speculation that happens with Game Awards. I think it's possible, but I also think it's possible we see an announcement of Metroid Dread DLC instead. I don't think we do both. I think it's one or the other. And then maybe a Breath of the Wild 2 trailer. Like, I think we can get two different things, but I don't think we get two Metroid things. It's possible, but I think we just focus on Metroid Dread and DLC for now, assuming there is Dread DLC coming. If there's no Dread DLC coming, well, then maybe just jump straight into Prime 1 Remake. But there is like a blank spot in the map for Metroid Dread in the top right. Like, there's a whole vacant area there, so that does lead one to believe some things. Also, there's a whole ship that came to the planet ZDR, and we don't know what happened to the Federation ship. So what if there's a DLC where you explore the ship, right? And an actual interesting thing, like, what if there's a reward for beating that DLC that lets you use the Omega Cannon all throughout your experience in the main campaign for Dread, and maybe they even add like a final boss, an extra little boss fight at the end of Dread to reward you you know, it's an extra little thing there. Maybe they even add like another difficulty, like a fusion mode or something, where it's even harder, where they change some things around, and that could all be a part of a DLC package, along with another whole other area that's a ship that you get a special reward towards the end of the game, which would be the Omega Cannon. Or maybe it's not even towards the end of the game, but if you did it earlier on, guess what? It just facilitates more sequence breaking without hacking the game. So it could just offer a lot more potential with speedrunning this game and just trying different things. It's a video idea. It'll happen. Maybe. Charles Trudell, indeed, that Metroid Prime, we don't know what it is. Yeah, we don't know how significant, but the implication is it's rather significant. Amber Abalama, I see your chat. I'm not going to read it out loud due to potential spoilers. But maybe. Excuse me, my gash just erupted from my mouth. Sorry. This when I continually talk, like gas builds up and I don't breathe, so it just like erupts out. I apologize. But yeah, I think that character could maybe be used as a boss fight. No, it's fine. I don't care, right? Like it's just some people are particular about it. You know, it's an easy thing to say. I don't worry. Zalado, oh my god, what if Metroid Prime 1 is a reimagining? Oh man. Well, I'll tell you that I don't think Metroid Prime 1 needs to be reimagined. I think it's pretty great the way it is. I think some minor changes, right? They could maybe structure things a little differently, like some minor little things. Maybe add another boss fight somewhere in Magmore Caverns, which is missing one. Like, yeah, stuff like that. Like, there's some things like I think they can change or adjust, but I think the core of the game is great the way it is. I don't think it needs to be a reimagined per se, but readjust it, perhaps. Super Chris, what is my jacket based off of? It's based off My Hero Academia. It's kind of like, it's similar. It's meant to look like the UA tracksuit. Verum Verbi, imagine if instead of DLC they released another new 2.5D Metroid game next year. They have the engine. Come on, Nintendo. A whole other year later. I mean, I hope they can just pump out another one. Yeah, why build upon it? Sure, but I don't know if we see it a whole year, just next year. I think we wait a little bit, but I definitely think they should follow up with another one fairly soon. Guy you don't know, did you hear about Metroid Dread Spirits being added to Smash Ultimate? I'm glad that we got some Dread content before Smash Ultimate wrapped up. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Verum Verbi, Super Metroid Reinvigorated. There you go. There's our remake of Super Metroid with the Dread engine. For Chris, it for some reason reminds me of the Pokemon Kyogre. Well, the colors are very similar, so that's actually a very interesting observation. So, all right, final little topic here before we call things a night, and that is just kind of talking about games we could see from Nintendo, because we could see at the Game Awards get some sort of nomination. Now, I wonder if I can pull up the Game Awards nominations are going to be announced later this week, like in a couple days. I think actually tomorrow. No, 2 days. So I want to see what awards there are. And guys in the chat, if I miss something, I'm gonna miss some things. I don't know of every Switch game off the top of my head. I might, but yeah, nominees. I don't care if I know there's no nominees. Yeah, I want to see what the Let me see the categories here. Favorite 2020 moment. I don't know. I want more categories. What are the news? Okay, hard to say. But anyway, I'll say that when I say hard to say, I just mean I can't find it on the website. But I say that I think Metroid Dread has a strong chance to get a Game of the Year nomination. I'll also say Monster Hunter Rise also equally has a strong chance to get a Game of the Year nomination. Both of those games, I would say, are the most likely candidates on the Switch to get like a Game of the Year potential nomination. I think they also were both candidates for Best Action. That they're candidates for that as well. If there's like a 2D side-scroller sort of genre, they may put Metroid there. Granted, I don't know if they divide that between indie, right? Because indie has, I think, its own category as well. But if there's like a 2D one, I think Dread is like a shoe-in for that. I think new Pokemon Snap actually could show up to some capacity as well. Maybe a Best Family Game, maybe. There's the whatchamacallit, Mario Golf came out. That's another option. Actually, Best Party Game, Mario Party Superstars, hands down. And it also has a strong candidate for local multiplayer, if that's a thing. That'll be there. Or multiplayer. It could be getting there for that. Monster Hunter Rise, by the way, is also a strong multiplayer game, so online multiplayer, so that may potentially get nominated, but given that it's on Switch, they may just like be like, nope, Switch can't possibly have a good online. So just something to consider there. Just some things. Best Artistic Design. I feel like Metroid has a great artistic design. I don't know if it'll get nominated for that because there's so many games out there, and then again, opinions. But it wouldn't. I don't think it'll be. I think entirely out of the question for Dread to get some sort of nod from that. Let's see here. What else? What else came out this year? So Bowser's Fury was an early year, as well as Bravely Default 2, and then new Pokemon Snap. Monster Hunter Rise came out before that. The summer, what did we get in the summer? Skyward Sword HD came in the summer. What came out between Snap and... Don't remember. I don't think Skyward Sword HD is getting any nominations. I don't see that. It's a remaster. In general, remasters don't get nominations. Depends on how significant, right? After that, No More Heroes 3, if that qualifies as an indie game, I think that can maybe get into the indie category. Potentially action as well. I'm just thinking what else on Switch I think could get some sort of nomination. Shin Megami Tensei V, that could potentially get a nomination for Best RPG. Also potentially Game of the Year. Potentially, I don't know if it should be ranked above Rise and Dread, but it's of a high caliber quality similar to those, I would say. From what I've heard, I haven't played it myself, but I want to. From what I've heard, it seems like the three best games of the year for Switch are Metroid Dread, Monster Hunter Rise, and Shin Megami Tensei V. Although you could argue Mario Party Superstars is a banger as well. New Pokemon Snap is also pretty good. There's been some solid games that have come out this year, actually. But that's kind of like my sort of what I'm maybe thinking right now in terms of potential Nintendo game and nominations. Let's see here. This is off topic, yeah, but I don't mind getting into it. Ronnie Fazio, a little off topic, but did you see the announcement of the Straw Hats casting for the live-action One Piece show for Netflix? I'm cautiously optimistic. So I was actually surprised at how strong their choices were. I think they made some pretty good choices. I'll tell you that I was a little upset about Luffy's choice. Not because I didn't think it was a good choice. I actually do. But just because I feel like I've always had it, because I used to act and I love Luffy, I even cosplayed as Luffy. I always sort of fantasize about one day maybe if there was a legit live action One Piece that I could be Luffy, as the actor for it, because I feel like I would fit the description for Luffy as well, especially you put a scar here, you poof out my hair a little bit, and I use more of my boyish charm, which I do have. I feel like I would have been I think I could have done a really good job of it. But yeah, no, that's what I get for not auditioning, right? Of course, I feel like I also would. I'm a little bit older, more mature, so I would, slightly different take on it, right? But I always feel like Luffy, even from the beginning, which is what this show is going to be about, the beginning of One Piece, right? This first season. Even from the beginning, Luffy is a fighter. He is a lanky person. I'm a lanky person, but he has some sort of a bit of a physical presence to him. So I would like to see. That's my take on it. So I'm curious to see how much of a physical presence. I don't forget his name, but how much he'll have in there, or if they're just gonna make him seem like just like a boy that stretches his arms. But from a personality perspective, he definitely has like the innocent sort of fun sort of vibe there. I'm just very curious if he'll also have like that intense competitive righteousness as well. Like I'm kind of hoping he has that energy. Like those are two different sides to Luffy, so I'm kind of hoping he has both. Which is why I personally feel like I could have done it, because like I'm pretty good at like getting angry and being dramatic. But I think from an appearance standpoint, I actually think they did a good job with all five. Like for example, Zoro, I saw some footage of him fighting, and I was like, he looks like a dude that can just there's some footage of him like doing for other roles, like of him just doing like fighting stuff, and he just cleaning the house. Like I think he's gonna play a good role as Zoro. I think you dye the hair green in a natural kind of way. You put on some makeup and clothing, like he'll look like a proper Zoro. Same thing with Sanji. I think the voice and I think the vibe he could present works really well. Nami, ideal. And actually, I kind of like what they do with Usopp as well. But this is a bit of a Nintendo discussion, so I'm gonna go away from One Piece. Sorry, big tangent there. But yes, I actually I'm relatively okay with the choices they made. But at the same time, because it is an anime being adapted to live action, I think it inherently is an uphill battle, because anime, like, it's very expressive with the faces and the reactions, and there's a lot of like really funny things they do or weird things they do that just won't translate to live action really well. So it may end up looking and feeling really awkward, but it seems like that they're putting together some real effort and ambition and budget here. So hopefully they have some good creative people behind this that will execute it well. But it's definitely an uphill battle. So I hope it's good, but I'm prepared for it to not be amazing. But we'll see. We'll see. They're definitely doing what, if it's possible, this may be that effort that makes it happen. Super Chris, Nintendo needs to resell Super Mario 3D All-Stars as well as Super Mario as other Mario memorabilia. Wouldn't people enjoy that? Logan LeBlanc, new Pokemon Snap is awesome. Yeah, it is a pretty darn good game. Chris, you genuinely did not like Mario Golf Super Rush. Okay. Okay. Logan, Pokemon Snap was a highlight of my year. Alrighty. Hello there, Link. Ronnie, I hope so too. Luffy's the most important to get right. No, it's fine. I actually was hoping to talk about it during the stream. I'm glad you reminded me. I just, I can't go too. I can't spend 30 minutes on talking about One Piece Netflix live action adaptation on a Nintendo podcast, or can I? I mean, I feel like there's definitely a decent overlap. I'm pretty sure a lot of you in the chat are into anime, and potentially One Piece, so I don't think it's too crazy. But yeah, Zalado, that's right. This podcast is about Nintendo, so let's talk about Chris Pratt as Mario. I actually think he could potentially do a good job, because he has a very light demeanor in the roles he's played, but still can play the role of like the action hero, but like in a lighthearted way. And I think that could potentially work out really well with Mario. Like, it may seem a little weird, but I can kind of see it. Especially if this entire movie has a very humorous take here. Charles Shadell. On just restart. You are the host. Talk about what you want. I guess, right? But I know you guys are here for Nintendo, so. Ronnie Fazio, we need Nintendo to make a One Piece game. If Nintendo made a One Piece game, I think it'd be pretty darn good. But Bandai Namco would handle that. And there's been some interesting ones, so yeah. Yeah, but I think we're pretty much done for the evening. I'll give you guys another 2 minutes to put any final questions. But I'm gonna call it a night soon. Have some water. My mouth is drying up. Yeah. But talking a little bit about the movie while I give you guys a chance to maybe put out some final questions. I think the cast for the Mario movie is actually very strong. I kind of see the direction they're going in. Like, they're going for something funny. Like, they put in a lot of actors that can do funny roles. I actually really like Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. And the reason because of that is because he's a humorous person. He definitely is great. He does comedy. He's a comedy actor. But he has a bit of a hoarse, sort of very tough, rugged voice. And I think that fits Donkey Kong, because Donkey Kong's a tough guy, right? So you take Seth Rogen's voice and you could it would fit Donkey Kong. Like, he's burly. Like, I think that would work, but it's also, you know, putting him in a funny sort of circumstances. I think it actually would fit really, really well. Paul Dunn, what's my major? Do you mean like I'm not in school, so I don't have a major. I did study theater back when I was in school, though. I also studied a little bit of journalism, too. A little. Logan LeBlanc, just last question. Do we get a direct before Arceus or no? Oh, that's a great question. I'm gonna say no. Yeah, I'm gonna say no. I think the January directs, as delightful as they may be, I think February or March is more likely at this point. Yeah, that's what I think. I just don't think there's a need. I don't think there's a need. I think there'll be hype going into Legends Arceus, and that'll be fine. But after Legends Arceus, yeah, then they'll do that. Like, there may be like a Legends Arceus direct, right, or something leading up to that. I could see that. And I think after that, we've had years where February is a time where we get a Pokemon Direct. So, you know. Yeah. It's tough. Like, it's not that January is impossible, but I think more like, you know, if, let's say there's a 33% chance it happens in January, a 33% chance it happens in February, and a 33% chance it happens in March. Assume the 1% is also somewhere divided by 3 evenly. Then there's a 1/3 chance it happens in January, but there's a 2/3 chance it happens after January if those are the only 3 options. So I would say more likely it happens in the other 2 months. So yeah, I don't think there's a need because Legends Arceus. Well, they'll focus on that leading throughout January, and it'll be fine. Super Chris, there you go. Zalato, the cast doesn't really bother. I just can't imagine how a Mario movie would be. How can it even be good? Well, I guess we'll find out when we get a trailer, right? Oh, crazy idea. What if we get a Mario movie trailer at the Game Awards? Right? They could do that. It would work. Even though it's the Game Awards, they could do it. There's a lot of movie stuff crossovers, and it might as if you're gonna do any sort of movie trailers at the Game Awards, might as well be a movie trailer based off of a video game franchise. So, just saying, that could happen. Yeah, Logan. I think there'll be a lot of discussion on Legends Arceus leading into that game in January. So yes. Mario Cisneros, Zelda, Mario, Metroid, love it, Andres, great show. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. But wait, Logan. Yes, Game Awards actually teased this year more trailers for game, movies, and TV this year. Really? So maybe that happens. Maybe that happens. But all right, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching. If you could like the stream, I'd appreciate it. Share it out. But I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.